Yesterday, I was telling Van that we talked about the culture of proactivism, how we bring people together and unite them. Van is an expert in that. He's done it himself in the face of challenging odds. The strategy of doing that, we had a good discussion on strategy. And we talked about the three areas in which informed Americans, 70%, agree. The area of clean energy choices, of conservation and nature-based solutions, and finally of circular economy incentives. These are the packages that not only together, based on MIT analysis, the result of a gift from Michael Sonnenfeld, enables us to measure the impacts of that, and the MIT data, this is not MIT, but it's us using MIT's data, shows that if we implement the policies that we've got, we are somewhere between 1.5 and 2 degrees increase between now and the end of the century. So we have a good policy set. It can be better. It will be improved as we go. But to help guide us along the path, I have next to me this remarkable individual, and I know he's over there. This is Bob Stout. So, and he is, Bob is a remarkable individual. But what impresses me so much about Van, and I will stop talking in a moment and ask him questions, is that he has lived through the valley of death, the political valley of death, I think, and come out the other side satisfied that he actually is accomplishing things with his life, not just becoming well known and entering the billionaire class, if you will. And I think that is something that we all can commend him for, and realize that potential is within all of us, and that we're all here. Ben, why are you here? Why'd you come?
Well, you asked me to come. That's the main reason.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's an honor to be here. I work in a bad industry, cable news. And so we spend a lot of time convincing people of stuff that's not true. Mm-hmm. We're not fake news. I don't mean that. That's not right. But just, I think if you spend enough time watching any of us, CNN, where I work, MSNBC, mm-hmm. The fuzzy predator channel that we fight with a lot, you'll think something's not true, which is that there are just too many awful people in the country to get anything done. Mm-hmm. You'll think there are too many awful Democrats who are all socialist and woke supremacists and, just terrible people. Just too many awful people who can't get anything done because of Democrats. Or the Republicans, too many bigots, too many greedy people, too many cult members. Just too many awful people. You can't get anything done. White people, they're just too many subconscious or conscious racists. Black people just want to protest and complain. There's too many awful people who can't get anything done. And it's just not true. Now, there are some awful people. There are awful people. But it's just the smallest problem that we have. Yeah. The big problem is we have so many awesome people in both political parties, mm-hmm. all racial groups, all faith groups, that just don't know what to do yet. You don't wake up in a country with an awful people. You wake up with an awesome people problem every day. Yeah. How do you get the awesome people to find each other, know each other, translate for each other, trust each other, and get something done? And I've just been blessed in my life that on some of the toughest problems in the country, we've been able to get real stuff done. We've been able to pass bills on criminal justice reform in places like Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia. The last time I was in the Oval Office was not with Obama or Biden. Last time I was in the Oval Office, I was standing behind Donald Trump with him signing my bill that let 25,000 people out of federal prison. I didn't say 25 people. I would get the Nobel Prize if I got 25 people out of prison, federal prison under Trump. I got 25,000 out. Mm-hmm. He signed my bill and handed me the pen.
Yes.
In the Oval Office.
Extraordinary.
Now, the coalition that put that together looked like the Muppet Show. Okay? It was every bizarre creature you've ever seen coming together to get something done. For a constituency, by the way, that can't vote, 200,000 people in federal prison, can't vote, can't donate, can't march, can't tweet, should be completely irrelevant to American politics. For that constituency, we got Nancy Pelosi, Donald Trump, Jared Kushner, Newt Gingrich, Kim Kardashian. It was the Muppet Show. And we won. So I'm here because you pay a price with your base when you do that. I've been called every kind of Uncle Tom, sellout, Sambo. You can be called in American politics. You have a bad day on Twitter when you do stuff like that. But my worst day on Twitter is better than anybody's best day in prison. And the payoff, and as I told you, I got a text message 2 weeks ago from a friend of mine. I didn't even know his father was in prison.
Yes.
And his dad got out of prison because of our bill. 2 weeks ago, and he sent me a picture of him with his father. Then that's just one out of 25,000. And so there is pain and there's a price to be paid, but there's also a payoff. And I tell you how good I feel every day, having gotten 25,000 people safely home out of federal prison, most of whom shouldn't have been there in the first place. I can't imagine how we're going to feel when it's 8 billion.
Yeah.
When it's 8 billion out of this prison of fear and denial and oncoming doom, and free to imagine a future for our species here that's worthy, and free to be in a human civilization that's both human and civilized. It's not what we have right now. We're headed toward a killer robot world, maybe on a dead planet. And so I can't imagine how good it's going to feel when we solve this. And to the extent that I've learned some stuff along the way that could be useful, I want to make it available.
One of the most interesting interesting experiences of your life must have been first getting to the point where you were chosen by President Obama in 2009 to be the Green Jobs Czar. You came into that position with a lot of energy. How did you get there, first of all, and then what happened after that?
Check. Okay. Oh, all right. Check. Well, it started off as a good story. In the early 2000s, I met Lynn Twist. I met a bunch of people. I met Mark. I met a bunch of people. I was working in Oakland, trying to help kids get out of jail and into jobs. That was my big focus, and I burned out. It was too hard.
Yeah. A lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people have that.
Yeah, it's too hard.
Yeah.
You can't hear it.
You cut out.
You got the good one. I'm gonna use the
You
good one.
just keep going. Absolutely.
But yeah, it's too hard. Anybody who's done work in any of these tough neighborhoods, it's too hard. You go to too many funerals with kids in caskets. And you only got to do that for a few times, and it's not good. And I just burned out, couldn't do it. And I was trying to get healthier. I wasn't trying to save the world. I wasn't trying to save Oakland. I was trying to save myself. And so I started, I went to the Landmark Forum. I did a bunch of Buddhist retreats. I was just trying to get healthier myself. I was really in bad shape emotionally. And I started going from Oakland, California to Marin County. And anybody knows California, Marin County is very different than Oakland. So I'm going to Marin County for all these retreats. And they have all kinds of stuff in Marin County we didn't have in Oakland. They had solar panels, they had hybrid cars, salads, just all kind of shit. I was like, this is amazing, Yeah, so
We have salads in Oakland.
You know, now, hey, I was in West Oakland door to door. I didn't see a lot of salads West Oakland door to door in the early 2000s. Maybe so. But no, it's there are big differences though. There are, and some of it's because of the kind of businesses that in those days. West Oakland's different now, but I'm talking about 2000, 2001, 2002. There were no Whole Foods, and if there were, it would have been Whole Paycheck. So and it was different, and I felt, why is it that way? Why can't we have that stuff in Oakland? Why can't we have organic food in Oakland? Why can't we have solar panels in Oakland? And I had this going back and forth across that bridge and seeing those differences. I had this 4-syllable prayer that just burst into my head. I said, we need green jobs, not jails. We need green jobs, not jails. And I saw that if we brought some of that stuff into the community, solar panels don't put themselves up. That's a job for somebody. Organic food doesn't make itself. That's a job for somebody, or a contract, entrepreneurial opportunity. I said, why don't we take the people who most need work and give them a chance to do the work that most needs to be done, repowering America in a clean way, and fight pollution and poverty at the same time.
Yes.
That was the prayer that came out of my despair. Now I'm rhyming.
Yeah, that's good. That was good. That was good.
Yeah, and it changed my life. It changed my life, and and we got the Oakland City Council to put $120,000.
Wow.
We were like, whoa! We got $120,000 for this thing called the Oakland Green Jobs Corps. And we were getting kids from, standing in front of our houses, pissing us off. And we said, we don't want you in front of our house anymore. You kids standing out here. We want you on top of our houses putting up solar panels. And it worked.
Beautiful.
And all of a sudden, this woman named Nancy Pelosi, who was across the bridge in San Francisco, she had just become Speaker of the House 2007. And she found out about what we were doing. And she was excited. And she took me by the hand to Washington, D.C. I got a chance to testify in front of every one of her committees about this crazy little program in Oakland. So she got together with a guy named George W. Bush, and they passed a bill called called the Green Jobs Act of 2007. It was the only bipartisan thing that those two did together that year, smuggled into the energy bill, and that was $120 million. $120 million! To spread that program across the country through the Department of Labor. 2007, 2008, I got a book deal, wrote about it. The book became a bestseller. A guy named Barack Obama read the book. He won an election, turns out, and asked me to come join him at the White House because it just turned out that nobody in the climate space knew much about workforce development, job training, and nobody in the job training space knew much about climate. And there's only one guy, this weird dude in Oakland, knew both. And I went up in the White House. And it was the most amazing, beautiful, powerful 6 months of my life, followed by the worst 6 weeks. When the furry predator channel, we never called it by name, but you know what I'm talking about. There's a cable station named after a furry predator, and they said, well, hold on a second. Van Jones? This left-wing berserkly radical from Oakland, who was in Marxist groups, certainly was, who was in black nationalist groups, certainly was, who was in radical feminist groups, certainly was, who was suing cops, certainly did. He's in the White House. We're gonna do. We don't have to report any other news for the rest of the summer. Everybody can go home. We can just keep playing this guy. Greatest hits over and over. And they didn't want me to quit. Obama's a very loyal guy. Michelle was a very loyal human being. And they didn't want me to quit. But I knew I needed to quit. I didn't go there to fight for my job. I went there to fight for other people to have jobs. And I didn't go there for Obama to protect and support me. I'm staff. I'm supposed to protect and support him. If I can't do that, I don't need to be that building. And so I turned in my badge and I resigned very nobly. And the administration thanked me for my services. And then I was clinically depressed for about a year and a half. And it was one of the worst things you can go through. Because when you go from the grassroots, outside, no power, no access, nobody returns your phone calls unless you have a protest in their office. And then suddenly you go from grassroots outsider to White House insider. And your phone never stops ringing. And all your jokes are funny. And you're a genius no matter what you say. And then the next day, is the battery broken my phone? Not a phone call. You know, people love you. But not a phone call. And you know, I will say, because we're all friends here, I was clinically depressed. I remember I left in September 2009, and and the leaves were just starting to turn colors, and I couldn't get out of bed. I said, well, by the time these leaves all turn colors, I'll be better. And the leaves turned color, and I was still not better. And they started coming off the trees. I said, by the time that tree is bare, I'm going to be better. And the tree was bare, and I still wasn't. I said, by the time the leaves come back on these trees, I'm going to be better. And the leaves came back on the trees. I still wasn't better. And they started turning color again. That's all I remember about that whole year. And so, you know, you pay a cost sometimes in politics. But had I not gone through that, gone from the edge of nothing to the center of everything, and then back out the back, marked as a failure, as a radical, what all these different things I went through. I don't think I would be sitting here talking to you. Because I would be a part of that establishment in a different way. You know, you get in there and you start drinking your own pee water and start believing in yourself, and you stop listening, you stop learning in a way. And I say that only because I've seen other people who were quote unquote more successful, but they're less useful. They're more successful. They didn't get in trouble. The resume is clean. The Wikipedia page is much shorter than mine, but they're less useful. They haven't heard enough. They haven't lost enough. They haven't seen both sides of the mountain enough. And you know, if any of you guys in your personal lives or in your professional lives have any of those pain points, that's where your strength's going to come from. Because we're going to go through a period where people are going to lose a lot. There's going to be a lot of disruption, technology, ecology, geopolitics. People are going to lose a lot. And if you've lost, and you know what that is, and you know how to get through it, at least how you got through it, you can be tremendously useful in the period coming forward. So I never thought, Lynn, I would thank Glenn Beck, but I do thank him. And by the way, Glenn Beck and I are actually quite close friends now, believe it or not, it's a whole other story.
Which we'll be asking about.
But he's apologized to me for what he did to me, and I thanked him for it. And that's what's possible in this work.
Well, that's one of the things I want to ask you about. And
So yeah, I became aware of you from Glenn Beck.
Yes.
And I just saw the barrage of daily attacks, and was astounded at it, and empathetic, because I'd gone through nowhere near the level, but a similar experience of having, you know, gotten something really important accomplished, and then torn apart by it, by people who were ideologically predisposed to do that. How did you become friends with Glenn Beck and others who position themselves on the opposite side?
Well, my boys were little then. And I didn't want them to feel there was some big mean man named Glenn Beck who had hurt their daddy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want them to feel that way. And so I just reached out to him. Gabby Giffords got shot. If you remember that? The congresswoman got shot. And a lot of Glenn's people were concerned that we were headed toward political violence. And they reached out to me. And I said, I'm worried too. And I said, I want to talk to Glenn about it. Mm-hmm. And we got on the phone. And I had my boys in the room with me because I wanted them to see that even if you have disagreement with somebody, tomorrow always comes. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be something more important than whatever we were fussing and fighting about tomorrow. Yeah. And whether that's political violence or the climate or people in prison who can't get home. And I think a lot of people forget, when I was standing in the Oval Office with Trump, I mean, who was in there with me? Jared Kushner was there, one of my closest friends now. But when Jared and those guys first won in 2016, the first thing Jared did was go take my boss at CNN, Jeff Zucker, out for dinner. And what did he tell Jeff? He told my boss, you will have no access, CNN, to the Trump White House until you do two things: fire Anna Navarro and fire Van Jones. Because Van Jones is too tough on Trump, he's unfair. If you want access to the Trump White House, fire those two people. Now, you know what that means? They can never fire me. I have job security for life. Thank you, brother. That is awesome.
That is good to hear. That is good to hear.
Please do that again.
Yeah.
But you know, it was brazen, and it was personal, and he was trying to get me fired. And so I went on TV that night and I said, Jared Kushner is riding his tricycle around in the Oval Office and needs a real job. So we didn't start off as friends. We didn't start off as friends. The first congressperson who called for me to resign from the administration, a young congressman named Mike Pence, wanted me to get fired, wanted me not to have a job. Pence and I were not friends. Who paid for the dossier to get me booted out in the first place? Americans for Prosperity, paid for by the Koch brothers. Mm-hmm. You know, Mark and I over there weren't friends. But who was standing together in the Oval Office? There I am, with Jared Kushner, mm-hmm. Mike Pence, and Mark Holden. All of us, shoulder to shoulder, standing with, by the way, with Jessica Jackson and a bunch of other good progressives as well, standing there while he's signing the thing that's going to let 25,000 people come home. Why? I still have a job. I'm okay.
Yeah.
If they had fired me from CNN, I'd have a job. Lynn would have hired me. Somebody would have hired me. Yeah. I was going to be okay. Yeah. But what about those 25,000 people in prison, mm-hmm. and their families? Yeah. What about the planet? Mm-hmm. What about kids who have autism? Yeah. What about folks in Appalachia who are scared that everything we're talking about is going to mean they won't have a job? Yeah. What about everybody else? At a certain point, we have to have some damn perspective. And these battles that we engage in at the elite level, mm-hmm. that then become a barrier to people at the mass level having any kind of future at all, we have to. There's no choice. Yeah. If we mean what we say, mm-hmm. if we mean that our kids and our grandkids won't have a planet to live on, if we mean what we say, then all this stuff has to be put in the corner. Yeah. And we can fuss, fight, and argue. How about this? Let's fuss, fight, and argue 4 days a week. How about that?
Yeah.
And then 1 day a week, get something done. That's all I'm asking for.
We're doing 2 days this week, so it's a good. We're on a trend, and we're going to keep going with it. Well, the criminal justice reform breakthrough. I think it's extraordinary to have that photo of that diverse set of people coming together around that issue. I believe it happened not in the election year, right? It was an off year.
Yeah, the end of 2018. Mm-hmm. It happened at the end of 2018, so it was in the kind of rump session.
Yeah. the session we can get things done, which, by the way, is
Yep.
this year and the year after next.
Yep.
So we got to get some things done this year. You probably learned some things that might be helpful to our community here about how to bring the left and the right together. I think you've given us a good set already through your personal experience, but we are all about a repeat around climate protection, and then around real prison reform, and then around better schools, and then around any other problem that emerges, because we've got a lot of them that I think are coming our way. What are some of the insights that you can offer us for carrying forward a mission that's about bringing folks together and empowering people to short circuit that political machine that no one's in charge of?
You know, I don't know that I have great answers. Ironically, I'm doing better now with my conservative friends than with my progressive friends. So I haven't figured this out. I'm working on it. I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know how you do what I do and keep the same level of support from your own base. I've lost a lot of support from my own base to do this. So that's a problem. So we got to keep figuring this thing out.
Yeah.
But I can tell you what I've learned from the reach across. I spend a lot of time in great again country, Trump country. I don't just talk to Jared, I talk to the Trump voters. And I'm probably as successful and effective with those voters as any Republican. And it's very simple. I've literally never had a problem with that section. Because I think liberals and progressives have convinced ourselves of something that turns out to not serve us. I'll put it this way. The shadow part of the identity